everybody, good evening and welcome into DogZone, where we have a chock-a-full show for you here tonight. Plenty of feature racing to touch on in the world of greyhound racing in New Zealand in the coming weeks. So we'll head to Mark Rosanoski, welcome him into the show. Rosso, the show is packed full tonight, no room for error or for either of us to take a breath. Headed up, of course, by the feature, Group 1, Christchurch Casino New Zealand Stayers Cup.
It's an extraordinary week, Andy. I've been hyperventilating, frankly, thinking about it, breathing into a paper bag. And look, the racing we've had in the past week or so to find our finalists for these various races hasn't been without controversy and a bit of drama and, you know, unfortunately the odd injury here and there too, Andy. But despite those dampening occurrences, a lot to look forward to this week. So, yeah, let's crack into it, and hopefully the only errors will be picking the odd wrong dog on top.
Let's dive straight into the feature, the main, the Group 1 Christchurch Casino New Zealand Stayers Cup. Here's a look at the market for it. Dinah Wesleyan, $2.10. Rocky passage for her into the final, but she's made her way there. Perfect result and all the way winner of his heat, $2.50. Rosso, I know things went wrong for her in her heat, Dinah Wesleyan. She's still the golden girl of New Zealand staying racing, and I think $2.10 is a fairly backable price around her.
I'm with you on that, Andy. Certainly am. She's been very dominant as a stayer, even though her win in the silver collar was narrow. But we'll talk about all of those things as we go through the field. But I'm with you. I think $2.10 is fair. Dominant second favourite as well. Perfect result. And I think that makes perfect sense too. So it's just a question, I suppose, of what sort of run she does get. And of course, one of the dogs who helped to cause that trouble was Apawa Hillary, who had box 8, and Apawa Hillary does have box 8 again. So there is still some intrigue there.
There certainly is. Let's go runner by runner through the field. We'll start off with the one dog, Perfect Result. He was an all-the-way winner of his heat. Fastest heat, 43 and 35. He's had the one rug on his back 10 times, 7 wins, plus a minor placing. No immediate speed to his outside. Rosso, things do look good for the second favourite in Perfect Result.
It just seems to be coming together perfectly for this dog. As we watch this heat, he dominated from the front as he can. He's got the speed to do this, and he's got stamina. 645 metres, what an amazing record he's got there, including the track record. And when he stepped up to 732, he's been outstanding as well. This is his second win. He's had 4 attempts. He also ran a distance second to Dinah Wesleyan in the Kingston Cup. In this race here, Andy, best time, 43.35, comfortably the faster of the two heats. Obviously, there was a bit of drama in the other, but the others we're looking for here, Andy, Shooter's Hill again for Sam Lizelle, winding up late, driving into the minors and becoming a very real prospect of getting on the dais again in another Group 1 for young Sam.
Certainly is. He's a really promising, talented stayer, isn't he? Shooter's Hill. He does get out of his ground early, but gee, hits the line strong. There's no doubt about that. Interesting runner of the field is A Lot of Talk. He comes up with box number 2. He doesn't have a great deal of early speed. He's an absolute nightmare of a dog. Rosso, the kind of dog I'm sure you'd hate to own or train. He got home in a 13.12, second fastest run home of the entire field, but gee, it just depends where the head is at in the first few bounds.
Yeah, it does. Look, I guess he's got an inside draw. He's operated well from in there. He ticks the boxes in terms of breeding. He's got some very famous brothers, Tornado Tears and Rip and Sam. He's got a distance record in Australia, as I say. Last week's run was actually pretty good, but it was a distant 4th. And can he do better from closer in? Well, I think the answer is probably yes, and I nearly wanted to include him in the top 4, and I think he's a dangerous dog to leave out. I guess if you've backed him at the long odds, Andy, you'd say, hey, I'm in with a chance here of ripping off something decent. I don't think I could back him at $8 now, though.
The second heat winner was Van der Gambo. He comes up with box number 3, now trained, of course, by Callum Ware in the south. That was his first race day appearance at Addington Raceway. We'll take you back to have a look at that. You're looking for the dog in the black rug of box number 7 for this. 44 flat was his time. Rosso, obviously we need to be watching Dinah Wesleyan here as well. She's in the white rug of box number 3, and things get very ugly for her about there.
She wasn't actually far off falling there, Andy. She was getting sort of bumped and shoved as it was before Apawa Hillary came across, and that nearly finished her off completely, and she recovered extremely well. On the winner, Van de Gambo, well, he couldn't have done any more than this, could he, for Callum Ware, first up in the black rug here. And look, it was 44 seconds flat, so a long way behind Perfect Result. And you've got to think that Dinah Wesleyan getting a clean run to the first bend wins this very comfortably, obviously. But still, he did what he had to do. I understand there was talk that he was going to go to the Central Districts after this series, but I understand he's now going to stay down there in the south there with Callum. Dinah Wesleyan did a very good job, obviously, to get up for second, and we talk about her soon. In terms of Van de Gambo again, like Shooters Hill, Andy, I guess, made the dice in the silver collar. Has to be considered a real chance of at least making that probably on either side of the winner, I would think, in the final, and priced up accordingly at 10.
Maybe a little bit of room for improvement around Van de Gambo now that he has had a look at the 700-metre journey. He had a post-to-post leading into the heat, so his first go out of the boxes at Addington Raceway, and he gets the win. But agree, it's hard to see him taking out the final. The 4 rug comes up for No Potential. Crafty Cleve prepares this runner, and she was third in behind Perfect Result for her heat. She got home in a 13:26. Rozzo, safe to say that a few things need to go this girl's way for her to make her way onto the dais.
Yeah, and that's why she's at 50-1, but she has earned her place in here, as they all do, for Group 1 finals, and particularly those that have to run the distance, and she's placed before over the 7:32 prior to last week as well. But you'd have to put it down as a runner's chance, requiring a little bit of luck to find her way, getting more than a slice of just going around.
The Golden Girl of New Zealand staying racing comes up with the gold rug upon her back. Dinah Wesleyan, we speak of. She is an absolute star. Smashed the track record here in a 42:65 going back 3 or 4 starts. She's the silver collar winner. Rozzo, there's no immediate speed to her outside, which will help. As long as Opawa Hillary doesn't cut her in half like happened in the heat, she appears to be the one that they all have to beat here.
Yeah, well, she's unbeaten in 3 starts from box 5. Go to box 6, she's, I think, 6 from 6 there. She can do it from these draws. It seems to suit her okay. Obviously, things went badly wrong for her there. We've determined that she did very well just to get up for second. You just got to assume that she's going to get a safer run there. Opawa Hillary is out in box number 8 again, but she should have them covered off the inside. Perfect Result, obviously, to push forward early. But she's been so dominant in everything that she's done, Andy. Okay, yep, she got run close here, but it was 779 metres. At the 732, she shattered a long-standing record. She's won the Kingston Cup by nearly 11 lengths from the dog that's a dominant second favourite in this, in Perfect Result. And it may be that Perfect Result meets her as a better dog this time. But $2.10, I think, is giving punters an opportunity to have a crack at her. It's interesting, we consider her a front-running stayer now, and she can pull off some amazing opening sectionals, as good as the Class 5 sprinters. But when you go back and look at the Kingston Cup win, there's actually an element of surprise that she's in front. She was kind of expected to be midfield and working home from there. When she started out as a stayer, it's kind of like, oh, well, she's pretty good over the 520, but, she won't necessarily lead from the front here. Well, of course, that's what we expect from her now. So it shouldn't have been a surprise for anyone, despite what happened to her last week, that she was able to pick herself up. But obviously, to win this race, Andy, she can't afford that to happen again.
Yeah, it's hard to win Group 1 races when you get knocked around early. I think the thing you can point out, 18:10 was her sprint sectional, obviously, after finding that early trouble. 17:06 she ran when breaking the track record. So we know she's capable of around a second faster early on, and if you take that off her overall time in that heat, then she's comfortably the fastest qualifier for it. So still the greyhound that they all have to beat. Stephen Bonnie Evans will throw the green rug upon the back of Gold Star Sydney. She comes up with box number 6. She was third in her heat to Van de Gambo. Wasn't a bad effort. She had the aid of box number 1 on that occasion though, Rozzo, and to be fair, watching it live, I actually thought she held second in front of Wesleyan, but third was her best.
Yeah, she was game. She gets box number 6 here. I'm rapt that Steve and Bonnie have got a stayer through here to the final. It gives them a chance of a decent slice of the stake, but would require a lot of luck. But Andy, if we don't have these dogs contesting the heats and making it through to the final, then we don't have heats at all. So I'm wishing Steve and Bonnie well there for maybe a little bit of luck to help her out, maybe running top 4.
A dog that set tongues wagging after the silver collar was Shooters Hill after he all but ran down our Golden Girl and Dinah Wesleyan. Gee, he was game in defeat in his heat as well for this, Rozzo. He run home in a 12:72. That's That would be a phenomenal time for running home over 600, let alone over 700. He's 0.4 of a second faster than anything else. The second best being a lot of talk. He just gets too far out of his ground early, but geez, a big chance of storming home into a place.
No question, and thanks to sectionals.co.nz for individual sectionals across these races that we can bring you. I think he has to go into the top 3. It's hard not to have him there, Andy, on what we've seen. That was a very good effort in the faster of the 2 heats to get within 5.5 of perfect result. First race day run on the track, had a trial prior to that, and like you say, just should be better if anything, and quite happy to see him drawn wide and loafing early.
Exactly. The dog who potentially holds the key to the race is the 8 Opawa Hillary. We saw her draw box number 8 in the heat and take care of Dinah Wesleyan into the first turn. Rozzo, obviously we don't want to see that happen again, but gee, if she comes out fast, 17.50 her sprint split in the heat, gee, she could cause carnage for 1 or 2 here again if she repeats the tactics of her heat.
Yes, and that's a worry, isn't it? But here is an exciting young stayer, and you think whatever she does now obviously is bonus territory because, yeah, she should get better in time, strength and experience. So it's exciting to have a dog like Opawa Hillary stepping up. Fahey's have got 2 runners in this. They had 4 last year, and they're in second with Translator in behind Avenger Bale, who wasn't able to contest this series. They do have a really good record in this, going back 2010, Awesome Bender, Winsome Dosh 2008, 2006, Oyster Spice, just another Group 1 race that the Faheys have done well in. So is Ray Adcock with a couple of recent winners, and Craig Roberts over a period of a couple of decades with solid wins as well. So they all know what they're doing here, Andy, but I think there is a clear top pick in Dinah Wesleyan, a clear second pick in Perfect Result, and almost a clear third pick in Shooters Hill, 517, and then I tossed up between Van der Gambo and a lot of talk for 4th. Can you challenge me on any of those?
Not going to challenge you around the winner in Dinah Wesleyan. I think it's her race, barring bad luck. I've only found Perfect Result in for 4th. The back-to-back 700-metre racing is a slight concern for mine, but I think he's good enough to handle it. Van der Gambo, I think you need in the mix. He can improve, and obviously Shooters Hill. But I'm with you on Perfect Result being the second best dog in the race, and especially off the heat. So if he does get a clear run and the back-up, he does handle it, then he has a big chance of in the final as well.
Yes, Andy. Well, as I say, with Ray Adcock trained Ring the Bell a couple of years ago, and Can't Catch Tim the year before. It's just amazing too. We're about to look at the South Island Champs, where Ray is well represented too, and how incredibly well Ray still does to get dogs through to these finals with a far smaller team than what he once had 25 and 30 years ago when he was doing the same and getting winners and finalists for Group 1s.
Let's now have a look at the Group 2 Barron Supplies South Island Champs. Here's a look at the market favourite. Dinah Dave, $2.80. Nature's Gent, M Grand Park and Dinah Varsity all on the second line of betting. Rozzo, you could have locked in $4 around Dave before the heat, where he led all the way, which was a surprise to most. $2.80 comes up with the 7. It's not going to be easy sailing for him.
It's not, and funny mentioning sailing, dogs like Sailor Ellen, Double Speed, and the 2 and 3 might make things awkward for dogs a wee bit wider, and no, absolutely it is not for Dave. Having said that, because of the way he won his heat off box number 7, and yes, leading was a surprise for us, but it's very hard to say, well, this isn't going to happen again. And we know too that if it doesn't happen again and if he doesn't lead, he is still a very real chance of winning, and we have seen him at least place in dramatic circumstances in Group 1 races where he's come from off the pace. Start the show second here and giving chase. Andy, interested in your thoughts, but like I say, I just look at it and say, well, it's not like I want to jump in and back him at 280 necessarily, but by the same token, I'm not sure I'm willing to say that this can't happen again, and even if it doesn't, and he settles somewhere in the midfield, that he still can't get up and win anyway.
I think the surprising thing for me was the early speed, 5.94. I think in terms of the amazing chase, it was a shame the track was a touch off on Thursday, because I think we would have seen almost a guaranteed entry into the final had that track have been on. I think it was a sub-30 gallop all day long on a handy track. But box number 7's a concern for me. I know he was able to overcome it, but gee, he has been vulnerable at times in the past from wide draws, and he does need to pick the jump because, as you say, there is some speed drawn to his inside. We'll take a look now at heat number 2 for the Barron Supplies South Island Champs. This one was taken out by M Grand Park, the dog on the white rug of box number 3. Solid effort first up here at Addington Raceway, Rozzo. The main concern around him, obviously, the bumpy run he got in the North Island Challenge Stakes heats on Monday.
Yes, he did. And look, this is a tremendous performance on the back of 2 really good performances. An unlucky second in the Auckland Derby and an eye-catching third first up at Manawa too. So he's going to add a lot to New Zealand racing, this dog, I think. And he's a chance to press on over more ground. So this was as good as you could hope for, I think, in his first look down there at Addington Raceway. Yep, worry on Monday, no question. He got into some serious trouble when he seemed to be taking up a nice spot in the North Island Challenge Stakes. He draws outside the 2 and the 3, which is not ideal. And I think maybe he's the second best runner for the Angela Turnbull team here, because I think Nature's Gent off the inside, drawn underneath the 2 and the 3, gets a very real chance on the track where he won a New Zealand Cup a long time ago now, I know, but he has put in a couple of really good runs of late that we have highlighted. So I went 7 over the 8. I was pretty impressed with Dyna Varsity. I know only a Class 3 dog, but I do expect a reasonable run from the dog given what we saw there last week. Then Nature's Gent and then M Grand Park, because I didn't want to leave it out of 4. And it's just the way this field is drawn. I don't have a great deal of confidence around it, and maybe if the draw had been different, I could have maybe gone against Dyna Dave, assuming he had got box 7 or 8. But yeah, anyway, they're my numbers. What are yours?
I've just leant slightly away from Dave. I've got him in for second. I think he's the best greyhound in the race, and it'll be no surprise to see him win it. I'm with you on Dyna Varsity. I think he gets a really nice run off the 8, and he's got the speed to get around them into the first turn, albeit graded a C3 greyhound. It would be no surprise to see him win it. Over the 7, Dyna Dave, you have to have him in the mix, and then the 2 Turnbull runners, M Grand Park and Nature's Gent. Again, I think you need them both in the mix, and I'm with you around the run that the one dog does get, Nature's Gent. He's going to get a beautiful run into the race, and his run 2 back, Rozzo at Wanganui, was a super effort.
It certainly was. It's one of the best seconds I've seen in quite a while, and wouldn't it be magic if he could get a slice of this back at Addington track, as I say, that he had his grandest performance in winning the richest race in the country, the New Zealand Cup.
It's now time to head to Auckland and a replay of the Group 2 New Zealand Sires Produce, a race that was marred by an injury into the first turn. Obviously, Tianyu, our thoughts with connections there as he looked almost certain to go on to victory here. But taking advantage of that was No Refusal and No Denying. Crafty Cleveland Galen Turnwald running 1-2 here. No Refusal, a fast greyhound, Rozzo with strength, and once he got a run around them into the first turn, he was the winner from there.
Yeah, no question. As you say, Tianyu looked to be winning that race, but this is racing. He has fractured a hock. He's still with us, but as you say, our thoughts with Mark Lynn, with Glennis Farrell, and the fact too that brother Gao ran into the back of Tianyu. Just made it worse, came up with a hamstring injury I see there with a 7-day stand down for it. But in the end, it's about racing, being in the right place at the right time, and once again, Andy, that was certainly the case. Speaking of being in the right place at the right time, well, one who wasn't was All About Space. Now, she was drawn into box number 2, and we have both seen texts and emails that had been delivered to connections that suggested that she was eligible for this race, the New Zealand Sires Produce Stakes, even though there were some issues surrounding above all's eligibility as a sire for this. I think in the end, Andy, the right decision was probably made for her to be scratched out of the race, but it can't be made at this late hour. We previewed this race on the show last week and would have gone harder on it if it hadn't been such a busy week. I previewed the race on Friday night at 11 o'clock on Saturday. The connections were advised that she was not able to take her place. Now, I would have had her top pick. She probably would have been priced up favourite, and it meant that she couldn't line up in heats of a Group 2 $28,000 race, the North Island Challenge Stakes, on her doorstep on the Monday. I feel greatly for connections of All About Space. As I say, yep, I think I accept the right decisions made in the end, but it cannot be made. It cannot be made at that later stage.
100% echo your thoughts around there, Rosso. I can't really add a lot more to it. I agree that above all shouldn't have been eligible, but that decision should have been made before heats nominations closed, or the finals nominations closed, sorry, and then All About Space could have made her way potentially into the final of the North Island Champs, which she would have been a very realistic chance in. So, yeah, thoughts out to Connections around that as well. We are now joined on the phone by the winning trainer, Gary Cleve. Crafty, thank you for joining us on the show. And, gee, the New Zealand size produce is certainly a race you've made your own.
Yes, over the past 10 years, we've had a great run of success in it.
You certainly have. Talk us through Sunday's victory. Obviously, not the way you and Galen like to win races, but No Refusal, the dog who was in the right place at the right time.
He was. I think sort of what made him the race suitable for him was the fact that we came up for the silver collar, and both No Refusal and No Betrayal sort of got a run on the track, performed well, and just having that look sort of held them in good stead for Sunday's race.
He must have been heading up with a little bit of confidence. Of course, his last start at Addington, a best of the night in a 30 and 48, so he was certainly heading there in the right sort of form as well.
He was. He'd also sort of thrown in what I thought was a black booking run at Wanganui in the bred seats there. Just wasn't blessed with the draws. You know, you expect with 4 dogs in, you might have a wee bit in your favour, but yeah, someone else's bad luck sort of turned into our good luck.
Managed to get the Cornell. Sorry, you managed to get the Cornella there with No Denying, who raced home into second, so just made that trip home a little bit easier again.
Yes. Yeah, it's a big effort to sort of travel the length of the country to take on a race like that. So to win it was a huge bonus, and pick up some of the place money as well was just the icing on the cake.
Gary, Rosso here. You know I like a bit of history, and we are soon going to throw up the success that you have had in the size produce. No Refusal, No Denying by Yellow Mustard out of No Witch. And you had an earlier mating out of that where you had in 2016 5 from that litter, and they provided the first 4 in behind No Jinx. So you were indebted to Yellow Mustard and No Witch.
Yeah, it's been a very good dog for us. You know, not just the size. You know, he's produced you know, classic dogs that have been able to compete against you know, the Aussie imports and the Aussie breeds, and yeah, a nice type of cross with our dam lines.
Gary, one of those dogs that was on that list that you bred in 2012, No Peace, he did a fabulous job for you and for Galen until you sold him, and he actually went off and won in Australia. And so did No Class, the dog you mentioned, who actually ran 6th in his edition of the New Zealand size, which was the year that No Attempt won. But we're just having a look at this dog's record, No Class, and we kind of forget, I think, just how good these dogs are. He won 25, he won $134,000, but he won $50,000 in Australia as well. So what are the key credentials, do you think, for No Class as a sire?
Just probably raw ability right from the start. You know, even as a C2 dog, he sort of put up some big efforts. And I remember Steve Wall sort of saying to me at the time, and having a few of the boys on, you know, this dog's going to be in the New Zealand Cup this year. And you know, I sort of thought, oh, you're getting a wee bit excited there, Steve. But yeah, he sort of went on and contested some big races in New Zealand before we made the decision to send him to Australia.
It must have been a very exciting time for you. We just watched him win the Breeders' Stakes. Look, he's thrown some pretty reasonable dogs, and of course Classy Witch was in the Silver Collar recently, but I'm assuming he's had limited opportunity, so you're hoping that he might be able to get some more?
Yeah, well, he's sort of getting on a wee bit now. Yeah, I'd like to think that, you know, a few other breeders sort of are looking for that strength appeal and the prize money that's available for the 500-metre dogs. You know, his mother was a good stayer, and he run the ground, and you know, I think some stayers can be a bit dour, where I think he had the speed to go with it as well. Yeah, so for someone sort of looking for that cross to sort of inject a bit more stamina, I think he's a good choice.
Thank you very much for joining us on DogZone here today, Crafty. And of course, best of luck come Friday evening as well, with no potential going around in the Christchurch Casino New Zealand Stayers Cup.
No, cheers for that.
That was Gary Crafty Cleve joining us here on the show, and we do thank him for his time. We now need to get stuck into the North Island Challenge Stakes. Here's a look at the markets and your favourite. Thrilling Talk, $2.40. Thrilling Amigo in the market at $4.80. Robson, a $6 chance. Rosso, there appears to be a little bit of value in that market around dogs like Big Time Rod and Robson, but we better get stuck straight into Big Time Levi's Heat. He's the dog in the white rug here of box number 3. Got the job done, Rosso, but probably needs to lift a little bit to beat a couple of the more favoured runners.
He's the defending champion, Andy. In the last 9 starts, he's had 5 wins and 4 thirds. He's still going so well for the Cold Kennels. He's interesting now, though. Like he had a wee spell there where he was jumping really well and dominating on a Monday there for a bit. Now he's sort of gone back to the old Levi. He can get off the lids okay, then get burned for speed and then hook to the outside. And that's what he did 2 starts back from box 1. And I think that's going to be an issue for him here. He's got a terrific record off box 1, but he is going to get beaten for speed, and he's probably going to hook to the outside and make a late dab. But you would expect, but by then, some of the faster dogs might be a wee bit far in front of him, Andy.
You would think so. This is heat number 2, and Robson winning off the striped rug of box number 2. He comes up with the 6 in the final, Rosso, but he could get a little bit of room from there. Second fastest qualifier with a 25 and 99, so second fastest heat winner with a 25 and 99. Box 6, he could get a nice run, and we know the speed this greyhound has with clear air.
Yeah, look, if you could guarantee that he would get that nice run, Andy, and it is possible, like you say, the way that it's drawn, then he's a very real chance, and you can probably back him on a 1/3 basis, top 3 at least. He got the right heat here, Andy. It looks certainly the easiest on paper, and he won it comfortably. But 25.99 coming in fresh. He'd trialled there the week before. Things looking good again for this dog, who won the Golden Chase, of course, on the track. So a very real chance for Peter Ferguson.
Heat number 3 was taken out by the Karen Walsh prepared Thrilling Amigo, the black and white striped rug to the fore again here, box number 2. Rosso, potentially the run of the heats here. I know certainly not the fastest time, but geez, come from absolutely nowhere and monstered past them late in the piece.
I totally agree with what you said there, Andy. Yeah, not the fastest time, but what about the run? I mean, yeah, OK, Big Time Cooper, Trojan Horse aren't the strongest dogs going around, but Trojan Horse has won 2 Group 1s, and Big Time Cooper up until this day was unbeaten in 3 over the 457 and found the lead. So it's not bad getting past them, even if they're not the strongest finishers. Andy's out in box 8. He's unbeaten 2 from 2 there. If there's to be some trouble closer in, then he's the one who can potentially get over the top for Karen Walsh. She's got clearly 2 very good chances in this.
And this is her other very good chance in Thrilling Talk. The dog in the gold rug of box number 5, fastest heat, 25 and 79. He's certainly found form at the right time, and gee, he looks very, very tough to roll in this final.
It was a nice day on Monday, Andy, but it's winter and it clouded over, and this was the last race. It's actually gloomier than our cameras make it look, and it was very cold. For this dog to run 79 and 0.2 of a second faster than Robson, particularly off a, just an okay beginning. Yeah, I know he ducked to the rail and did everything right there. We watch him there. From box number 5. He comes up with 4 in the final, and he is outside some pace in Trojan Horse. But this is the best Thrilling Talk, and therefore it's hard to go against him. So for selections, I do have Thrilling Talk on top, dog 6, Robson in for second, 7 Big Time Rod behind Thrilling Talk. That was a very good run. And I've got defending champion Big Time Levi in for 4th, Andy, ahead of Thrilling Amigo, who I think you might have found for 4th, and that might be our only difference here.
It is indeed. Found the same trifecta. Hard to go past Talk, like you say. Robson, we know how fast he is if he can get clear air. Think Rod's the each-way value. He was good in the heat, and I think he can get home late in the piece. And then the 8 Thrilling Amigo. Wouldn't want to run without him after that heat run. He certainly wasn't the fastest, but gee, got home late in the piece. So that's where I'm heading in the North Island Challenge Stakes. That's all we have time for here on DogZone. Rosso, as we head back to you, certainly a full-packed week of greyhound racing. If you're an enthusiast, it is the week you want to be involved.
It certainly is, Andy. I've been around the game for a while, as you know, and I'm about as excited as I can be for a week ahead.
Of course, we didn't have time to touch on the Amazing Chase, the qualifying period underway for that now. There is a leaderboard available, amazingchase.co.nz. Have a scroll through there, click on the leaderboard and you can see where the progress is at. Well, that's all we've got time for here on DogZone. Friday night, Addington Raceway is where it all goes down with the Group 1 Christchurch Casino New Zealand Stayers Cup. We'll be back next week with a full review of all the features this week in greyhound racing. But until then, happy punting.